February 21st, 2024. Uh, Last week we said that we would have Taylor Cummings to come back. Reason why she didn't come this week is because I had suggested a good friend of ours, uh, Jim Edgerly, to come on and have almost like a black and white discussion on the issue of how the issue of almost race in America and how that plays a strategic and important role in the violence that we see today, especially in certain target communities, are affected more than others. And she was pinpointing from her vantage point why that is, especially in the Black and the brown communities, how the um, uh, experience that they have had plays also a very intricate role in the violence that is committed and executed within their own communities. And this is why we're looking at violence. I was looking at articles that are coming out that are really sharing that although violence is everywhere, but there is sometimes an epidemic, if you will, of violence in especially the Black and brown communities, and how much more percentages are happening within their communities than other communities, but all communities. I look at the newspapers and I see gun violence. I've seen in white communities, brown communities, all kind of communities, violence is quite prevalent. But we're glad that she has committed to come another day. And I think that I'll bring them on, Jim Edgerly and Taylor, to come back on in March, the first week of March. I think that's the availability of Jim, because Jim could not come this week or next week because he also is out of town and very busy. So we look forward to that. But we have a great guest who's not a stranger to us. Actually, he's one of our best who's come and share with us. And we're inviting him again to come share our updates. And this is our dear and profound brother, Reverend Darren Faulkner, who is the pastor of Temple of Faith Missionary Baptist Church in Kansas City, Missouri. Also, he is an adamant social outreach person that has taken his ministry and taken what he feels is the onus of his church and the onus of being a pastor to go out and see what kind of difference can we make or can he make in the communities that he is serving. So without any further ado, our dear brother, Reverend Darren Faulkner, we want to welcome you. And we haven't seen you, of course, last year. You've come on a couple of times. So I just want to say officially Happy New Year. Welcome back to us on 2024. And we look forward to 2024 being a year that can make some sustainable difference. Welcome.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Oliver, and greetings, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome back. I'm glad to be here sharing with you all again in this new year, and Happy New Year. Just before I get started, I was called by God to leave the Temple of Faith and start a new ministry, a new church plant. So I am no longer the pastor at the Temple of Faith, but now I am pastoring the Faith Defenders Bible Fellowship, a new church plant that started Easter. We're coming up on a year on this Easter.
Oh,
okay. Yes, sir. So anyone's dealing with church plants knows that we need a lot of prayer. But thanks be to God. We are grateful for the opportunity to come on and share with you all. As you all know, the Kansas City Chiefs are again Super Bowl champions. This is the second year in a row, repeat, the first time in 20 years that there's been a repeat Super Bowl champion. And we are that here in Kansas City. On February the 12th, a week ago to this day, we were celebrating our Kansas City Chiefs in a parade and rally. And the parade made its way to our Union Station, historic Union Station in downtown Kansas City, where we heard from our mayor, we heard from our governor, and then, of course, we heard from our Kansas City Chiefs. About the time the rally was ending, there was gunfire. And in that gunfire, multiple people were exchanging gunfire with each other. It subsequently resulted in 23 people being injured by gunfire, one of them fatally. Lisa Lopez Galvan, well-known radio host here in the Kansas City area in the Latino community, lost her life in this gunfire. 22 other individuals were injured in this gunfire, including 9 children, 16 years of age or younger. Happy to report everyone has been released from hospital care as of today, just today, from the injuries they sustained in the shooting last week. What we are learning is that one adult male had some issues with a juvenile male. That juvenile male then brought his father into it, and then the 2 adults had some disagreement, and one of them pulled their gun and the other one pulled their gun and exchanged gunfire. Initially, the thoughts were that there was just an active shooter in the crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. We're still waiting on the number of people that were in attendance. Some have said as many as 1 million people were in this rally and in this crowd. But we're thankful that it was not a terrorist issue. It wasn't a random shooter, active shooter, but 2 individuals who got into a disagreement, an argument, and chose to pull their firearm in a crowd. Our law enforcement personnel, along with a number of partner agencies and organizations, responded quickly and swiftly to get the situation under control. Our police chief informed us that there were over 900 uniformed officers supporting the parade and the rally on that day. And we had federal partners from the FBI, from the ATF. We had our county sheriff's department, local police department, and regional police officers as far away as Columbia, Missouri, which is 2 hours away. So there was a large presence of law enforcement visible during this shooting. I raised that point to raise our awareness on this call that law enforcement is no longer a deterrence for gun violence. There were a number of uniformed officers in the area of the rally where the shooting took place. In fact, officers have testified that they were 12 feet away when the gunfire rang out. And it just goes to show, Dr. Oliver, that we have come to a point at least here in Kansas City, but I'm going to say across this nation, where law enforcement is no longer a deterrent for this kind of gun violence. One of the individuals that has been determined to have fired the fatal shot of Miss Lisa Lopez Galvan had some previous charges, nothing of a violent nature. The other individual, they have not been able to give us a whole lot of information or detail on. Those were the two adults. There are also two juveniles who are being charged with gun charges and possession charges that they have really, because of their age, not been able to share a whole lot of information with us. So far, there are 4 people that are in custody, but they're looking for additional people that also may have discharged a firearm on this day. We and my organization, KC Common Good, and our violence prevention initiative called KC 360 provided the first candlelight vigil on behalf of Lisa Lopez Galvan the very next night, Thursday night, after the shooting on Wednesday. Close to 200 people were in attendance for that candlelight vigil. We got national and international media coverage for that candlelight vigil. But we had the opportunity to meet some of the friends of the deceased Lisa Lopez Galvan. They had the opportunity to speak to the crowd, but it was an opportunity to have prayer and an opportunity to lament the violence that's going on in our city. Kansas City, historically, has been in the top 10 most violent cities in our nation. I think currently we rank number 6 per capita. We're not a large city. We're about 500,000 people. But per capita, we're the 6th most violent city in America right now. What a lot of media has not captured is that while the shooting fiasco was happening at the rally, there was a shooting not 2.5 miles away where a young lady was shot in the leg in what is being deemed as a drive-by shooting. Probably less than 4 miles away on the east side of Kansas City, a young man lost his life, probably an hour after the parade. Not associated to any of the shootings that I've just mentioned, but independently, on that day, we had 2 additional shootings unrelated to the 23 shootings of people that were injured at this parade and rally. I don't say that to discourage anyone not to want to come to Kansas City. We are living in a time when violence, as Dr. Oliver has said, is rampant. But I want to highlight that Kansas City is a wonderful place to be. It's a wonderful place to live. It's a wonderful place to visit. We have a number of things that are happening that are fantastic in our city. We have the extension of our streetcar that's going to take passengers from our university all the way downtown into our Crossroads district for shopping and restaurants and that sort of thing. We have a downtown ballpark that's in the conversation of being built right in the heart of downtown. We have completed construction and have really been utilizing our state-of-the-art airport, international airport. There are a number of great things that would bring people to Kansas City. So I don't want to paint such a negative picture with all of the violence that has occurred, that this is not a safe place to come. Dr. Oliver, this is another point that I really want to stress. As much violence as is perceived to be in Kansas City, you would think it would be unsafe to go anywhere. But I'm comfortable and confident that I can drive or walk down any city street without risk of being shot. The individuals that are shooting and being shot are individuals that in some way or another know each other. There's this subculture that exists in every metropolitan city where a group has felt like they are no longer a part of the mainstream society. And there's a number of reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with poverty. A lot of it has to do with disenfranchisement. A lot of it has to do with economic development. A lot of it has to do with affordable housing. The list goes on to these root causes of violence. And because we as a mainstream society has intentionally and sometimes unintentionally forced this group of people into a category that they now own. There's research that suggests that in any major city where crime is occurring and it's at a rampant rate, that as much as 60% of the criminal activity that is occurring by less than 1% of the population of that city. So if you take 2,000 people in a city of 100,000, that's the amount of people that are creating the most problems in any major city. And so those 2,000 people, just using a number, a fictitious number, represent as much as 60% of the criminal activity in any major city. And those are people who know each other either directly or indirectly. And they have beef with each other, they call it. They have conflicts with each other that seemingly are ongoing. And so the average person is not affected by that, is not directly impacted by that. Because they're not looking to shoot me. Now, I could be accidentally shot in a crossfire, that sort of thing, but I am totally safe to go to the grocery store, to go to my shopping, and do any of those things without threat of violence. Now, Kansas City is coming off of its most dangerous year in terms of homicides in 2023. We ended the year with 182 homicides, which is an all-time record. In 2020, at the peak of the pandemic, we set the record then at 179. 3 years later, 2023, we surpassed that with 182. We recognize that there's a problem. And so the last time that I was on here, I don't want to just talk about the problems. I want to share some of the solutions, if that's okay, Dr. Oliver. Do I have a few more minutes? Okay. The last time that we were on, I made mention of an effort that we are utilizing to address these issues. And the effort is known as the KC 360. It is a community impact model. That is to say, it's grassroots from the bottom up. It's not an institutional-led effort. By institution, I mean law enforcement, city government, health department. It's not institutionally led. This is led by the community. And the way in which it works, we call together on a weekly basis individuals who work in the space of violence intervention, prevention, mental health, education, politics, political, civic and government, residents and neighbors, law enforcement every single week. And we get in a room and we talk about the previous 7-day shootings, both fatal and non-fatal. And we try to address the issues as we see them best from law enforcement intelligence, how to prevent it moving forward. We're also building what we are calling a 10-point strategic plan that, as I said, is from the ground up. And the way that we have crafted this plan is to engage the various stakeholders from the community. We have had what we call stakeholder meetings with our faith community. We've had stakeholder meetings with our neighborhoods and residents. We've had stakeholder meetings with our business and civic community. We've had stakeholder meetings with our youth. And so far, we have been able to build out a template of what they see as the top 10 most pressing issues that they believe would drive down violent crime. We recognize that this plan is a living and breathing organism, and that there are more stakeholders that we have to engage before such a plan can be finalized. But in this 10-point plan, we're focusing on collaboration, we're focusing on youth, we're focusing on mental health, we're focusing on substance abuse, and we're focusing on some of those other root causes of violence. And with these weekly meetings, we actually problem solve each one of those issues with those who are coming to the table. And if someone is not at the table, we look around and see who needs to be at the table. Who do we need to invite to be here? And we invite them to the table, and they're able to contribute whatever resource they have to address whatever the issue is that we are seemingly facing. And so this plan, we are modeling after a very successful plan in Omaha, Nebraska, under the Empowerment Network. Mr. Willie Barney is the founder of the Empowerment Network. And just to give you some reference, Omaha, the city of Omaha, is approximately 480,000 people. Kansas City is approximately 510,000 people, so relatively same in size. There are some different demographics in terms of the African-American population, the Latino population in Omaha to Kansas City, but not drastically different. Omaha has been employing this strategy for 17 years. Last year in Omaha, they ended the year with 26 homicides. We ended the year with 182. This is a 40-year low for homicide tracking in Omaha. They have consistently, for the last 10 years, been at 30 and 40-year lows in terms of their homicides. And so we are modeling our work in Kansas City after this very successful model in Omaha, Nebraska. I know, Dr. Oliver, you and I had talked at one time about having Mr. Willie Barney come on and visit with us on Wednesday sometime. And maybe that's still a possibility, because he's really the architect of this work that we're modeling in Kansas City. We've only been doing it in Kansas City 18 months, but we have focused on a target area in our city that the FBI has deemed 1,000% higher in terms of violent crime than the national average. Last year, I'm sorry, when I say last year, 2022, they had 9 homicides in this small area of the city. 2023, because of our investment in that area, they ended the year with only 2. That's a 78% reduction in just 12 months. We know that that's just a baseline. They could end up way back high again this year. But after that first year of devoting more than 6,000 hours, more than 4,000 individual tactics, and close to $450,000 of in-kind donations in terms of time, resources, and effort, we saw them go from 9 homicides down to 2. We saw them go from 44 stolen vehicles down to 17. We saw them go from 38 non-fatal shootings down to 26. And so we've seen some measurable success in just 18 months. And we're going to continue to build upon this 10-point strategic plan, bringing in our health department, our city, our civic and business community to also be stakeholders and to include themselves in this plan so that everyone in our city sees themselves in this plan and can help us to work it. I will say violence is costly. The RAND Institute, R-A-N-D, an independent research organization, did a study, and each homicide costs between $1.4 and $1.7 million to work. 1.4 and 1.7, between 1.4 and $1.7 million. Now, when you have 182 homicides at 1.4 on the low end per homicide, you can see you're in the billions of dollars. In 2020, when we had 179, our gross domestic product in Kansas City was impacted by 15%. So when we look at the bottom line in terms of how much homicides are costing us, that's when you can get the buy-in from your business community. That's when you can get the civic community engaged, and that sort of thing. So when we look at that particular figure, we know that we've got to have something similar to counteract that. You can't throw $30,000 at $1 billion issue and expect to make an impact. And so as we build this plan, we're going to shop it around the city, the county, and our state to make an investment to help us get out of this situation that we're in. Omaha, just to give you an example, the state of Nebraska just contributed to the work of the Empowerment Network $450 million towards this work. They just announced another $150 million going to the Malcolm X Foundation. And it's all because they took time to build out this plan and then take it to their state representatives, which it's, like in Missouri, it's a Republican-led Senate and a House, but they got bipartisan support to unanimously approve this $450 million to go into organizations like their youth programming so that they can employ youth year-round, not just in the summer, to go into the building of the Malcolm X Foundation that I shared with you, to go into some of the neighborhoods to build affordable housing where there's dilapidated and abandoned properties. And so we are following that model here in Kansas City to build such a robust plan that the business, the faith community, the civic community, the city government, everyone will be able to see themselves in. And then we're going to take that to the state and say, we need you to fund this. Just like it costs us taxpayers when a homicide occurs, it also costs us to prevent some of those homicides from occurring by meeting some of these very basic needs. I'll stop there. I could go on and on, but that's the latest update in Kansas City. Our shooting victims from the parade, 22 of 23, have now been released from the hospital. In fact, the last two that were released were actually the perpetrators of the shooting in the first place. They shot each other and had critical injuries, but they have now been released as of today. Released to go to jail, but released from hospitals. Both of those adult individuals are looking at first degree murder, which our prosecutor tells us can carry a life sentence. Both are looking at armed criminal action and a series of additional charges. So these individuals will not likely be able to get out of prison.
Wow. Wow. Thank you for that impactful and packed information that you have imparted us this day. You said so much, and also the juices in me were just recalibrating certain things in my mind and feeling excited about what I said earlier, that we will have a national conference and bringing the best practices. Love for you to be one of the keynote speakers as well, so that we can bring all those best practices, because as you said, I like what you said. You said it's a living organism. That means that other entities has to come in to make the final, product. And
Absolutely.
I think as we have spoken with so many of dynamic individuals such as yourself, I think they have other pieces of the puzzle to bring in
Yes.
to make an organism that can reach on a national scale. We go to
Yes.
and said, no, this is working. Best practices are here, and we've put it under a collective umbrella. And I think that's really good. So I'm looking at, I'm thinking to myself, maybe June or something like that, so we can prepare. So I'm going to be on your heels, and please be on mine as well, because
Yes,
go ahead and do it I've already resolved 2024 is the year that we can bring those, bring everybody together at a national conference. And I'm believing that it's going to be here in Washington, D.C., in the nation's capital. And that might do a 2-3 day thing where we can go visit our congressman, as well.
absolutely. Absolutely.
What we have on the table that you must look at. So thank you so much for that. You said so much. Thank you for that incredible update, but also reminding us of the 360 platform that you have created. And yes, I look forward to having him on this year, ASAP, so that we can move forward and make a connection with him as well. One of the things that I think, as our last speaker was speaking in, when we talk about root causes, you said something, and I read an article today on gun violence with Van Jones, the newscaster, making some comments about violence in the white and black community that is there. But, I don't know, he says 19% more of those shootings are coming from the black on black crimes and stuff like that. So, but one of the things that you just said too was the subculture. And I think the operative word that sealed it in my mind was a subculture that they own.
They own it. And, one of the questions that I'm constantly bombarded with, and it's mostly from law enforcement, but some from community members, is how do we change the culture? And it's a very valid question. It is a very valid question. But this is a culture that we have created, and now they're embracing it. So it is upon us, it's incumbent upon us to change the culture. But how do we change the culture? We got to change opportunity. We have to make sure that access is available to everyone where it hasn't been. We have to help pay people affordable living wages so that they can support their family. That's how you change the culture. If you really want to know the answer to that question, don't ask me the question because I will tell you the truth. You got to provide resources and opportunities for folks that have been disenfranchised for decades. And if you are not serious about that, get out of my face because I don't want to talk to you about changing a culture. To change a culture takes time, it takes resources, it takes commitment. And if you don't have all of that, don't talk to me about it. But you're absolutely right. They have embraced it. This is who we are. This is how we are now. We have had to be this way to survive. So now deal with it. And if we want that to change, we have to do something different as a nation, as a city, as a state, as a community, as a faith community. We have to do something different.
Just your litany of points that you were bringing out, because I think we don't appreciate the historical, things compound. I don't think we appreciate it. We sweep it on the carpet, get over it. No, but you don't get over enculturation of something that has been vile, for not decades, centuries.
Centuries.
Right. So this is the end part. I always say, and this is my thing. You want to talk about those communities. Well, I feel sometimes because I lack appreciation what our people have gone through and looking at, okay, we appreciate what they've been through. Now, how do we really help sincerely with our heart to make a change? Because in reality, we created our own monsters. Right.
There it is. There it is.
I'd just like to open up the floor. Thank you again for any comments that might want to make or any questions that you might want to address to Reverend Faulkner. So I'm not going to wait for Reverend Franklin to say something, but I'm going to call on him now.
Thank you so much, Reverend Oliver. Oh, God bless you. Reverend Faulkner, thank you so much, for your inspiration and your passion to serve and uplift and empower, and bring healing, to our community. And I really mean that with all my heart, my sincerity, because I'm just thinking, all this reminds me. I remember when my wife and we were serving in Korea as missionaries, and I remember that she said, son, listen, I know you got a family and all, and of course, I know no son of mine is going to live out in the street, but I tell you the truth, right now, here in Cincinnati, manufacturing jobs, they're leaving this town like crazy, hon. It's hard to find jobs here. And so, I mean, if you know people in New Jersey or New York, who can help you to be able to get situated, I just want to encourage you to do that. And so, as a man, I can't, be bringing my family up under my mom. I had to go ahead and do something, take care of that. But, the underlying point, why all these outsourcing of our manufacturing jobs? Why did they go out? And then at the same time, I remember the neighborhood when I grew up. There were trees, and I remember the kids going out, about 6 blocks away from where I lived. And we used to go out and used to play in the pond and play in the forest and pick up tadpoles and all this stuff. Now it's a highway. growing up, I remember in high school, they had, you know, girls had home economics. Guys had, you can learn how to become a plumber. You can
Yes.
learn how to become, you
Mechanic,
can get a mechanic. Exactly. They had auto mechanics there, and they had teaching you
shop.
how to do, yeah, shop. They had shop class. So all this is eliminated. And so to me, you know, I think it just makes me so upset. But you know, I'm channeling that hostility, um, because people like yourself, you know, have been able to do that. We need God. We really need God, so we can have really adult conversations to get to the truth. Why did all of that happen? To say, and you know, and just say, oh, you got to get over it. I am so sick of hearing that. And so let us continue to put God in our conversation so we can talk about why why did our communities, you know, why did powers that be allow this to happen? And then they wonder why we so freaking mad.
Mm. You
So,
preaching. You preaching.
you know, so, so I just want to thank you because, you know, what you're doing, your activities are truly God inspired, and it inspires me to empower my activism here in a place where I live. So I just wanted to share that with you. And God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for those words. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you. You're muted, Reverend Oliver. You're still muted.
Anybody hear me?
A little bit.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yes, now we can.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, thank you, Reverend Franklin. That was fun. What you're saying and what we said, that's a whole nother uh, you know, can be contributed to that and expounded on. So I want to thank you for that. I also want to reach out to we have actually I don't know, I hate to put her on the spot, but we do have a politician online. Um, and I would love to hear from her if she wants, and that's a Representative Joy Garrett, if she would like to say a few words or make some comments. We would love to hear from you.
Hi.
There
Sorry,
she
I
is.
came on late. I was just on another Zoom. But I really appreciate Reverend Faulkner's comments. Albuquerque is about the same size as Kansas City, so can really relate to what you said. And thank you for all you're doing. And I'm sorry, Reverend Oliver, I just caught the last part. We just came out of a 30-day session, and gun violence was a big topic. We didn't handle enough of it. So we'll be continuing our work because, as Reverend Faulkner knows, it's a combination of grassroots involvement, city, county, state efforts, and everybody has to be working together. And as you said so wisely, everybody has to be at the table, not accusing each other, not pointing fingers at each other, but listening and really collaborating. So just thank you for the model that you're participating in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative, for what you're doing. I know the work is not easy, causing people who have varying opinions to come together and try to get something done. So thank you so very much for the work that you are doing. I was going to say that it really takes everyone. You may think that what you're doing is so small, but that is a part of the puzzle. Every piece is a part of the puzzle, and everyone can do something. I'll say that again. Everyone can do something towards violence prevention. And that's what the culture is around the table that we have every single week, is that not one of us around this table has the ability nor capacity to solve this. But working together, we can really make an impact. And that's the culture we've established these last 18 months, is really working in collaboration, and not just collaboration, but strategic alignment. Because you can come together and collaborate all you want to and agree what needs to be done. But if there's no strategic alignment in who's going to do it because they do it best, they've been doing it the longest, you still have holes in your work. And so that's the part we're building now, the strategic alignment. We're in collaboration as a city as far as the big powers that be. We've got our city government, we've got our health department, we've got our police department, we've got our neighborhoods and residents, we've got our faith community, we've got all of those people in collaboration. But now the work is to align them strategically to go do the work. And so as we're building this plan, that's a challenge that we're facing right now, is how do we get in strategic alignment? Our law enforcement in Kansas City they're great, but they think that they can do prevention and intervention when we know their title says what they do: enforcement, law enforcement. So if that's what you do best, you're the only one who can do that. How about you stay right there? Let some of these social service agencies do the social service work. Let the faith community minister to the families. That's not your lane. And so aligning people strategically in this work is now our biggest challenge. And I'm seeing some very positive things as we're moving forward. So thank you, Representative. Thank you for all you do. Really appreciate you.
Great points about the strategic alignment and valuing the lane that you're in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Joy, for coming on as well. Good to see you. Thank you for gracing us here today. As well, one of the points that we had Reverend, sorry, his name eludes me, from Yonkers, New York, and he has done incredible job dealing with these violent gangs.
Jim Bostic.
Yeah, Jim Bostic, Reverend Bostic, and he's done incredible. And what he did also, as you had indicated, was provide jobs. And then I think you had mentioned also, how do you get the business community to also play an intricate role? It started to show them the numbers, and that's what he did as well. If you reduce this is how much you will save.
Yes.
This is how much you will lose. And he also has a measurable results by really going out there and providing those businesses. The businesses were providing jobs for these gang members, and the reduction went down drastically. So yes, we need to bring more of those in, as you had indicated, to discuss and to share that it works. Yeah.
Absolutely. Crime, and I'll say specifically violent crime, is solvable. What? Yes, I said it. Violent crime is solvable. We just have to make up our mind we want to solve it. It's just like hunger, it's like homelessness, it's like any of these woes in our community. They're all solvable. But we as a nation of people have to say, what's our value system? If our value system points us in the right direction, whatever it is, we can solve it. It's just that simple, but yet it's that complex.
Thank you for that. That's really powerful. And it is solvable. We can bring the solutions, but there needs to be some resolves first, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We live in the greatest nation in the world, and we serve a mighty good God who can do anything but fail. And he has given us what we need to do what needs to be done, but our value system has kept us from doing the work I believe God has for us to do. And that's why we're in the situation we're in as a nation.
Very powerful statement. Anybody else would like to, the floor is still open before we come to our final close. Anyone else would like to make a statement, share a point?
Yes, this is Sonny Willett. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm not my bit. Yes, thank you so much, Reverend Faulkner. You are really wonderful pastor, and watching about society, how we can serve. You are a great patriot person. I'm really admire your character, your heart. Yes, I want to. Yes, if we can make provide heart education. How we can educate the young people, family, parents, and families. How we can create education to people to think for others. When we harm others, how they, if someone harm to you. So either way, we have to feel, we are hurting. And then when once we hurt somebody, because, also we have a conscious mind, that mind, oh, I made wrong, I did wrong, I am evil, So if we can, develop, education, to the people, today's people, they didn't receive a proper education. And so they are living, what we see in this, so, corrupted world. And we need more develop social, development with the character, with the warm heart, live for others, and, respect for one another. So we can develop this, maybe there's a solution. Yes, so I'm encouraging Reverend Faulkner. If we can think about that, maybe there's a much greater hope. Yes, that's what I want to share. Thank you.
Very, very, very well said. Very powerful, and I agree with you 100%. We are working with our school system for that very reason, to try and re-educate, or at least start educating with this new generation. And part of that education is supporting folks who have been hurt, young people who have seen dead bodies before they're 9 years old, young people who have witnessed domestic violence in their homes, where boyfriends jumping on mom, young people who have seen someone get shot in the parking lot of the apartment complex where they live. We have to help those young people who have been traumatized, not to accept that as normalized living. Because if I see that at a young age and I don't get any help or assistance, or, to use your word, education on that's not okay, that's not the way it's supposed to be, then hurt people end up hurting people, as you so eloquently said. and the cycle continues. So we've got to find a way through our educational system to educate and re-educate our young people, because truly they are our future. And many of them, unfortunately, are growing up in this type of culture that their uncles and big mamas and daddies have embraced. And that's what they grow up thinking is just the norm. So we have to educate them differently. We have to provide more social services and mental health resources in our educational system so that these hurt people don't grow up and continue to hurt people. Very well said, Ms. Moon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very powerfully said. We're coming to our end, but I want to thank you. We're gonna continue on with this, Reverend Faulkner. And so I think two things that comes to my mind, and I thank you, Son Willett, for your point, because we all, as you said, are created by God. So therefore, there's no one that is not capable, no one who is not capable of doing good if the proper education is permeating within their consciousness. But consciousness comes through education and exposure, right? So you said all crimes are solvable. We can solve it. Also, one thing for me is, have we all come to that resolve? Do we really appreciate the traumas that the different segments of society have gone through, or are we just looking at them from a pragmatic eye of, that's those people are like this, those people are like this. And so, ABC. So are we resolved to say, I want to appreciate historical trauma. I want to appreciate anybody's historical trauma, and so that we can come to some sort of solution of solving those issues, because they are solvable. I think that's the word. All situations are solvable. So I really appreciate what you're saying, hitting many nails on the head. And so we want to continue on. Reverend, do you have some last words for us before we close?
Yeah, I would just leave everyone with Kansas City is hurting right now. We're hurting right now. We're in mourning right now. There's a number of vigils and mental health centers and resources being made available to community to access, but we are in mourning right now, and I solicit the prayers of all of you faith leaders on this call for our city right now. We are a city of resilience. We will get through this. We are stronger together as a city, as a nation for that matter. But we are hurting right now. This is difficult. And so while we find our way through this with your prayers and support, looking, of course, to the hills from which cometh our help cometh from the Lord. I just want you all to know we are more determined. Our resolve is stronger than ever. And my will is even stronger to address this issue of violence in our city.
Thank you.
And I implore you from the various communities that you all represent, don't wait for such a tragedy to double down on your efforts to address root causes of violence. because it will make a difference and it will prevent incidents like we had this past Wednesday. This is what I'll close with. Many of you may know or heard of the Valentine's Day Massacre of 1929 in Chicago, Illinois. Now Kansas City can say we have also had a Valentine's Day Massacre in Kansas City, 2024.
Mm.
On that day, Valentine's Day, it also marked for many in the faith community the start of the season of Lent with Ash Wednesday. And I believe by faith that nothing in God's great creation happens by accident. This heinous act occurred at the start of the season of Lent, when people of faith all over the world will look over the next 40 days to the passion of the Christ and that resurrection Sunday that follows. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm looking down the road and I'm believing by faith that this city will have a resurrection not long from now, where people of different races, people of different genders, people of different ages will rise up and say, enough is enough. I'm going to drop my differences. I'm going to drop my biases. I'm going to drop all these things that keep us divided. And I'm going to do what it takes to come together. And our city is going to see a resurrection.
Amen.
Where people will come together and our city will never be the same.
Amen.
Lisa Lopez Galvan did not die in vain, but she, in fact, started a revolution. I will leave you with that. God bless you all. Thank you so very much for the opportunity to come on and share. To God be the glory.
Amen.
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 God bless you, Reverend.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Final words. And as it is said, so shall it be. You know, so
Amen.
so God bless you. And that will be one of the prototypes that we will give that same prophecy and proclamation to the nation. This great nation, as
Amen.
you eloquently said so many times. This is a great nation, and we're proud of our nation, but we want our nation to rise to its real occasion that God had already planned it to be.
Come on.
Yes.
All right, God bless you, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Representative Garrett, Joy Garrett. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
for doing this.
Actually, I think our husband was on as well.
He still is. Yes.
Yeah.
Senator
Reverend,
Son.
yeah. Reverend Franklin, thank you so much. William, always good to see you. Bill, God bless you. All right, everyone. Thank you again. We will stay in touch.
Yes.
Thank you, Mama Joy.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Reverend Faulkner.
Everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Always informative, always uplifting.
Very powerful. Thank you so much. All right, Chris. God bless you. All right, Dale. I did see you.
Reverend Oliver, could I ask you a question?
Sure.
The 360 program, I believe it started in Omaha, and now Reverend Faulkner is getting it started in Kansas City. Is that something that we could transplant in other cities?
Yeah, that's what I want to get with him. You know, he's talked about the 360 before, and it was a collaboration. And this is not the first, it's like his third time telling us this. But now that's why I'm saying what we're going to do is I believe the strongest thing that we can do is bring all the best practices together in one room. And then we can make those decisions. How can we be a catalyst to multiplying it In other words, because it's not going to be us. We need a collaboration of other people who are good at that, you know. So, but I think our strength would bring them together. And then from there, and then that's why I said I wanted him to be the key speaker, because he can help with the collaboration speak. But as he said, there are still entities out there that needs to come in to create the final organism that will prevail and be the proclamation of it will work on the national scale. You know, so thank you, Bill.
Good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because in Indianapolis, there's a Reverend James Jackson who ran for mayor. Unfortunately, didn't receive the vote, but he's very committed to healing the city, just as Reverend Faulkner was talking about. So there's folks here that are ready to join him.
Well, we look forward to it. I think, like I just said, if we this conference it's what I would call a national providence of the start. Then we can bring all those great, because there's so many people out there, like you said, out there. They are doing incredible stuff. I've been moved by so many people that are creating best practices that you can measure, you know, but in their little silos.
Yes.
So how do we bring it together?
Yes. We're waiting for your clarion call.
Thank you, everyone. God bless. We'll see you next week. Okay. All right. Thank you,
so much,
Nadia.
Reverend
God
Alden.
bless.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome. Thank you so much. Great time today. All right.
Awesome. God bless you all. Have a great day.
You do the
All right,
same.
you too.